To summarize, what we see here is that the geographical boundaries are really blurring when it comes to online gaming, and it's literally bringing the whole country together. So not only the geographical boundaries are blurring, we are also seeing that the interest on online gaming is not limited to a certain day of the week. I looked at data in 2019 and I picked up data from January, and this kind of remains consistent across all different months. What we see is that most of the searches, the peak of the searches was actually happening on a Friday or a Saturday, which was intuitive and expected because you have more time at hand and then you're planning for a weekend. Probably that's why a lot of interest on online gaming on Friday and Saturday compared to the rest of the days. It's not that the other days are like less significant. It's just that Friday, Saturday is super duper important. However, when I look at April 2020 and I look at last 10 days, the trend is slightly different. What we see is the graph on the top half of the slide. What you see is, be it a Wednesday or a Saturday or a Monday or a Tuesday, the search intensity is, there's hardly any difference in search intensity. That means the interest in online gaming is really consistent throughout the week, throughout the 7 days of the week. That again means that probably the boundary between the weekday and the weekend is kind of blurring. Yeah. Third thing I want to talk about is that online gaming is like extending beyond boundaries. It's extending beyond weekdays, weekends. It's also extending beyond devices. So mobile gaming is certainly one of the most critical devices or one of the most important aspects of online gaming, and that remains so even in current times. But what is important is to understand that now people are searching not just for mobile gaming, but are also looking for PC games or games that they can play on their desktop or a laptop. Um, and this is not something very specific to gaming only, but in general, when I talked about data from smartphone, I said 82% people said that they spend a lot more time on mobile. 60% people said that they're spending a lot more time on their desktop or laptop. It meant that probably users are also looking for games to be able to play on the desktop or laptop. So that means if you're thinking about a device strategy for your gaming, probably this is something that you can take into consideration. Um, so next, we want to understand what is the motivation behind people looking out for online games. Initially, when I was doing this analysis, I assumed that it's the lockdown. You're sitting at home. You have more time in hand. So probably you want to, looking out for ways to entertain yourself. But I think 15 or 10 days in the lockdown, I realized that there wasn't any extra time. There was so much things to be done anyways. So, entertaining yourself cannot be the sole purpose of looking out for online games. And when we look at the search data, what comes out is that people are looking a lot more for playing with friends. They're looking for games that they can play with their friends, games that they can play with their families, multiplayer games, and these kind of searches have had a very significant rise in recent times. That means that online gaming was actually emerging as not just a mode of entertainment, but was also emerging as a ability to socially engage with friends and families while maintaining social distance. Here, I would like to zoom out a little and go to a market like US or UK. In US, UK, for example, also we see something very similar. There also people are looking out for games that they can play with their friends, games that they can play with their families. Uh, but what's additionally happening there is that they're looking out for games where they can not just play with their friends and family, but they can also see and interact with them while they're playing. That means you can imagine a game of sorts like a virtual gaming space where you're playing, you're seeing that kind of environment in a gaming space. So that is the kind of searches we are seeing in some developed markets already coming up. Uh, Good to see if that comes up in Indian market as well. But beyond doubt that online gaming is being seen as a very important aspect of social engagement. second interesting motivator that came out in our search results was that game for kids is also really trending. That means gaming for kids, gaming for children is being searched a lot, and that was again that made sense because if our parents in the audience they would understand that having a kid at home is socially sorry engaging them in a fruitful manner is very important and critical. And hence, when we look at the kind of searches or the kind of genres that people look for when it comes to children, it's slightly different. It's more around puzzles, riddles, and essentially the idea is all centered around learning when it comes to children. That means if there's any developer who's or any company who's focused on children as an audience, probably that is the kind of insights that you may actually take away from here. So I talked about gaming being seen as a mode of social engagement. What it meant was people are looking for games that you can play with your friends and family. Means that the game should be easy enough to understand, should be something you should be well aware of, and no doubt it meant that the kind of games that we see growing is actually something that we all are very well aware of. So we looked at some different genres of gaming that was trending, and the one that was trending really fast was traditional games like a Ludo or a Carom or a Tambola, for example. The- So here, not only the growth numbers are high, but also Ludo, Carom, and Tambola, for example. Ludo is way ahead of in search volumes when compared to a Tambola or Carom, and it was again, I think why this could be happening is because of two reasons. First, these are games that you can play with your friends and family, which clearly seems to be the need in current times. And second, these are the games where rules of these games are well aware, like people are aware about a game of these rules. Third is the influence group of people could be changing. Like initially, where students or kids were going to their colleges or school, the influencer group was more around people of similar age. However, now they're spending more time with their friends and family or sitting at home, so the influencer group would have changed. So probably because of these couple of reasons, games like Ludo and Carom are becoming very critical. Or for that matter, any traditional games which is played in every household and is probably possible in an online environment is really trending. And if you look at the time when these games, the interest in these games rise, you would notice that the time is generally after lunch. Like once you're done with your all the work at home, after lunch at around 2:30 p.m. till 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. That is the time across 7 days is when most of the people look out for these games. Second genre we thought we'll talk about is card games. I would like to highlight here is that the searches across the genres, so the interest across genres is increasing. It's not that there is a specific one which is declining and the other one is increasing. It's just that there is one which is growing at a much faster pace compared to others. So the second one that we want to talk about was card games. Card games have had a like a marked increase, but at the same time, I looked at a couple of card specific games like a rummy, poker, or a teen patti. Rummy certainly among at least these four games clearly seems to be a leader in terms of search volumes and also search growth numbers. Like the growth interest in Rummy is significant when I compare with other games. If you compare a card game with a traditional games like a Ludo, of course the type of game differs. Probably the audience also differs. But what's also interesting is that the time when these games are being played is very different. Like if you can see on the graph, it's slightly small, so I'm not sure if you can see. But in poker or teen patti, for example, the interest for these games rises late night. For example, 2:30 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. is the time when people look for teen patti or a poker. And Rummy is actually coming out as an evening game, like a 6 p.m., 8 to 8 p.m., 10 p.m. kind of timing is when people look a lot more for Rummy games. Search a lot more for rummy games. Third, hardcore games like a PUBG or a Free Fire. It's not that because these other forms of games are increasing, these are declining. we see marked increase of growth numbers in these kind of games as well, like a PUBG or a Free Fire. However, the growth numbers are less when compared to, for example, a Ludo. And what's interesting here is if you look at top search term for PUBG and Free Fire, you would see that in PUBG, the third topmost term is actually PUBG Lite. Means for games like this, and these terms are taken for last 30 days. So basically, these are volumes that is coming from last 30 days. And you would notice that for these games specifically, which requires larger bandwidth or larger space, you would see that the lighter version of app is super critical here. And similarly, we also see that these games are now being searched not only in English but also in Hindi. So essentially, like I said, you have searches for all the genres rising, and but while there is one like traditional games rising at a much faster pace than compared to others, but the growth is there across all genres. Interesting thing that we want to talk about is um, so people are looking for games, and one of the things that was very very critical for users, as we understood initially, was social engagement. And if you look at the graph before, you see that one of the term that is coming out over and over again with different games is video. People look for video of Ludo. People look for video of PUBG, Free Fire. You name a game, and a video is being searched for that particular game. And that led me to look at YouTube as a platform and what's happening there. And what you realize is YouTube is emerging as a important aspect for users to bring their gaming journey to life. What it meant is users are spending a lot more time watching reviews, watching versus comparisons and all, to find out which game is more important, which game is better over the other, like, and basically identifying ways to select the game that they want to play. They're looking for hacks, tips, tricks, walkthroughs, demos, etc., to strategize and learn those games. And very very important, they are looking a lot more for live gaming, basically to identifying, basically to be able to participate in these games. And why it is important to see that live games is becoming so important is because users probably are trying to find like-minded people, create a community where they can play together, share insights with each other. So when you are thinking about the idea of a launch day, you shouldn't be thinking of it off as a one-off event. Probably you can actually stretch it out as a vehicle of greater community engagement and social capital. With that, pretty much, I'll just quickly summarize what I had to say. There's seven critical things that we are seeing in today's time. First one, online gaming is critical, not just in India, but worldwide. There is some disturbance. Yeah. Second, gaming is extending beyond geographical boundaries. Gaming extending beyond usual weekends. Gaming extending beyond mobile devices. And one of the key motivators for gaming today is becoming social engagement. And that's why probably people are looking a lot for live gaming. And then we see rise across different genres. And of course, because of social engagement, traditional games are seeing a massive growth here. I would like to conclude my session and hand over to Ankit to talk about the interesting aspects of data monetization and acquisition. Thank you so much.
I go ahead with my part.
No, Ankit, I think you.
Okay. Let me present my screen. Okay. Just give me a second. Sorry, I'm just trying to present. Yeah, I hope you all can see my screen now. Can somebody?
Yes, Ankit, we can see.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Aparna, for great insights. Hi, I am Ankit. I head the apps vertical on the online partnerships group at Google. Before starting, I just wish everybody is safe. With your family, friends are safe, and hope the situation improves quickly. I am really excited about the evolution of gaming industry, which has happened in past few years. We have seen tremendous increase in interest for mobile gaming in last 2 to 3 years. We from Google are committed to support the Indian gaming publisher ecosystem so that you all can build amazing games for India and world. Right? Data, monetization, acquisition are the three key business strategies which are intertwined, and that is why it is imperative to talk about them together. I will briefly touch all of them and point you to the right resources available for further deep dive. So, on the presentations, I have kept the links. We would not be able to share the presentation, but you can note down those links. Those are very simple links between the presentation. So let us start with the data pillar. This is the most crucial pillar, which will also help you optimize other pillars like monetization and acquisition. Instead of flying blind, data can help you take business decisions with confidence, right? So I believe you have all distributed your functional goals in three key pillars, which are users, monetizations, and user acquisitions. Um, to define a great data strategy, you need to first define the key matrices which you want to track in each of these verticals, which will help you navigate your business successfully. So I have noted down few key matrices which I have seen businesses track, but it can depend on company to company. But essentially, you would be tracking downloads, engagement, retention with your users. You would want to track your game economy, how much ads you are showing to the users, the ad density, the ARPDAU LTV numbers, and in terms of user acquisitions, you would want to track how much organic versus inorganic downloads you are having, whether your CPI, which is cost per install, is less than your LTV or not. And we will talk about briefly about some of these things in the presentation. So when we talk about data maturity, this is how we like to define data maturity, that how you are tracking your data in your company. There are essentially four stages to data maturity. The first stage, which is the bottom of the pyramid, is about knowing your data and benchmarks, right? You define your key matrices as we talked about, and then benchmark them with market leaders. This is again where we help in companies to benchmark their data. We provide business benchmarks at how you should be tracking on those key matrices. The next step to data maturity is then you do A/B experiments and understand that how you can optimize some of those matrices, how you can reach those benchmarks or even breach those benchmarks. Uh, Taking it further, which is the third stage, is making user segments. Once you have optimized your overall set, then you can define clusters of users and then create different user experience for those sets using different features like remote configuration, etc. And the last and the most mature stage of data maturity is that how you are using AI, ML, predictions, big data, all the mature stuff to drive engagement on your platform and drive business growth. So, how do you establish data foundations in your company, right? There are four key things which you need to do to make sure that you are well set for success, right? First is culture. You need to broadcast thoughtfully that what is your data strategy. So all the employees should know, as all the employees should know what is vision, mission of your company, they should also know that what is your data strategy. So what are the key matrices which everybody is tracking? So you should broadcast this information and then create a culture in your company about this. The second thing is skills. Does your company have right skills? Which is, for example, do you have data architects? Do you have insight generators? Do you have business translators? So you need to see that at what data maturity stage you are at, and then you need to hire the right people who have the right skills who can work with that data. The third is technology. Once you start investing in right people, then you need to democratize that data for self-serve, right? So you need to make that data available to different parts of your organization, different verticals of your organization, so that they can use that data, they can free up some time and then use that data to integrate in their business. And the last one is data, that you need to segment the data, create the data in different buckets. You need to create, source, analyze, and then sell this data if required in your company, right? So this is broadly about that, how you can make your organization move through the pyramid. One of the things which I would want to talk about within data is how you can use Google solution, which is Firebase, which will help you in terms of getting to the topmost stage of data maturity pyramid. The link, the reference link for this is firebase.google.com. Firebase is a suite of tools that makes it easier to create world-class mobile apps. Generally speaking, Firebase tools falls into three buckets: tools to help you build, tools to help you improve your apps, and tools to help you grow them into businesses, right? So there are three key things which you can do with Firebase. Firebase also has a tight integration with Admob, which is a Google's monetization platform. With just few clicks, you can have the power to share data between Admob and Firebase platforms, so that you can generate more powerful insights. From the Firebase console, you can perform deep analysis of your data by leveraging Firebase audience, user properties, and more. In addition, Firebase integrates your data across its entire suite to make your life way easier. Some of the default events which are particularly available for gaming companies are listed on top, on left bottom of the slide, right? So you can use these default events to see that how users are performing in your game. One of the key things which I would want to talk about is the importance of A/B testing, right? And Firebase has this. You can easily integrate. You can use your in-house tools, or you can use Firebase suite of A/B testing to perform to track any change or any new launch which you do in your game, right? And it is crucial. It is very crucial at this point of time when the business is very volatile. It is imperative for you to track any change using A/B testing, because you don't know whether that change made a positive impact or a negative impact unless you track it in the A/B testing environment. Just a simple example, I will be very quick on this slide, that you can use Firebase remote config. There is a default line, then you can create a test group, and then you can expose certain percentage of your users with a desired change, and then you can track what the key matrices, how they are performing across those users. Very, very crucial. If you are not doing it enough, I would highly encourage you guys to use this. One of the examples that how different gaming companies have used A/B testing. For example, this is example where Gamehouse was using A/B testing to check which mediation platform they should use. Right? It could be as simple as introducing a new ad format, to testing between ad formats, to testing the mediation platform. Right? So here are the results also which they got from A/B testing. So this was about data. I will now move on to the second part of my presentation, which is monetization strategy. I will be talking about three key pillars, two key pillars actually. Third one I already spoke about, which was getting the answers you need to grow your business, right? So we talked about the Firebase and which user matrices you should be tracking. One more part is Admob reporting, or reporting of any platform which you are using. You should also use that. But I will be focusing on the other two pillars, which is keep users happy and engaged, and maximize sustainable app revenue in this presentation. So starting with better ad formats that are user friendly, there are four ad formats specifically which you can use in games, which are banner ads, interstitial ads, rewarded ads, and native ads. I'm sure you must be aware of all these formats. So what I will do is I will quickly cover that what kind of new technologies or new advancement which are available in these formats. So, in terms of banner ads, the new format which has been launched recently, which you might not be aware of, is the adaptive banners. Adaptive banners is a banner in which you just specify the maximum width you want of that banner slot, and we analyze demand and device characteristics to provide an optimal ad size. So, as a publisher, you don't need to define a specific size; you just specify the maximum width. This improvement to your placement is expected to bring around 20% increase in banner revenue. At this point, I would also like to add that if you are using regular banners, then you should also check your banner refresh rates, right? So games where you have static screen, user is spending a lot of time on one screen. How many times you are refreshing that ad, right? Refreshing too soon will also lead to decrease in revenue, and not refreshing it also will not be optimal, right? So you need to do A/B experiments and figure it out that what is your optimal ad refresh rate for screens where user is spending a lot of time. Also, you can use data to analyze that how much revenue you are getting from each screen, right? Again, using Firebase integration, you can analyze that whether you are monetizing all the screens well or not. So this is about banner ad. The latest update which I have already shared is adaptive banners. If you have not tried it, I would highly encourage you to go and try adaptive banners. Uh, the next format which I would talk about is the app open ads. With app open ads, you can start earning from the moment a user opens your app rather than waiting for extended engagement to trigger ad opportunities. Uh, this is not an interstitial format that this takes 85% of your screen. App opens gives a good user experience. Your app's branding, which auto closes in 5 seconds, does not increase load time, right? So on the bottom part of the screen, there is your app branding. Inventory is available in each one of your apps, so definitely consider it when you are updating your app. I will move on to interstitial formats now. I will not cover the basic interstitial formats, just that what is new or something which you have missed earlier. This is the exit interstitial format. So this you can place while user is trying to quit the app. So this will be applicable to users who are not killing your app, right? Users can just go out of your app by pressing the home button or killing the app directly. But users who are exiting your app, it's a really good format to show. I've On the slide you can read that what could be the flow of this placement, but this is a really good format, leads to 20 to 30% increase of your of revenue, because interstitial is a good eCPM format, and it's usually 2x eCPM of banner ads. So please consider it. Again, I would encourage doing A/B testing to evaluate that how this format is changing your LTV or ARPDAU. ARPDAU is average revenue per daily active user. Moving on, this is another thing which I think it has been almost an year since it was launched. It is smart segmentation. So a lot of publishers would be considering that how they can increase the in-app purchase. But you need to keep in mind that 96% of the users will never spend on in-app purchases, right? So although you are monetizing a small chunk of your user base, although the ARPDAU or the per user value would be very high, but at the same point of time, there are a lot of users who will never spend on your app, right? So how do you monetize those users? Is there a way that you can monetize only those users whom you know that will never spend? Yes, there is a way. So smart segmentation divides users who are likely purchasers to unlikely purchasers. So for players who are unlikely to make a purchase in your game, you can show them more ads. And for players who are likely to purchase, you can show them fewer ads and they can continue to make IAP purchases, right? So on the slide, you can see two different flows. And smart segmentation is very, very simple to implement. There's just a tick button which you need to do on the ad unit if you're using Admob. And it takes your users, it makes your users have different user experience based on whether they are likely purchasers or unlikely purchasers. How does it work? It's a TensorFlow model where it just takes known purchasers and known non-purchasers, and we feed it into model and then train this model so that it can then predict new users whether they will be purchasers or non-purchasers. We have seen really good results out of this. The accuracy of this model is more than 99.99%. And here is a case study also, which you can see from Game Insight, where they were able to increase their revenue, ad revenue by 30% without compromising any IAP revenue. And this led to overall increase in their revenue. While we are on interstitial ads, I would also quickly want to cover the policies around interstitial ad. I have just 2 or 3 slides on this, just to make sure that while you are implementing ads experience to your users, you are complying with policies. It is really important to make sure that you are complying with all the policies, and it is really easy to miss a few. That is why I would want to cover it here. So interstitial ads, accidental clicks. So this is the gist of the policy, that why the policies are there. It is to protect users and advertisers also from accidental clicks. Interstitial should only be placed in between pages or app content. Do not place interstitial ads on app load or when exiting apps. Ads should also not be placed in applications that are running in background or background of the device or outside of the app environment. It should be clear to the users which application the ad is associated with. So it is commonly referred as outstitials. So you need to make sure that ads appear within your app environment. And the last policy is that placing interstitials that shows unexpectedly is not allowed. So users should expect where the ad is placed. So it should be between the screens. The slide also shows that how you can place the interstitial ad. If it is leading to a lot of accidental clicks, you can also track it at your end and make sure that you are investing in analyzing this ad format so that there is no violation to the policy. I will come to the last format, which is rewarded, which is very important for all the game developers. So rewarded ads not only create they create value beyond monetization. It is really important to use rewarded format if you have a gaming app. If you are relying only on in-app purchases, you can start experimenting with rewarded ads as they create a lot of user value. It gives users a chance to experiment with what they will get if they start spending in your app. The good thing about rewarded ads is that we have diverse creatives in terms of ad formats. So there are like new video CTD formats, puzzle CTD ads, and multi-option rewarded formats which are available. So these are very high quality, engaging formats, and advertisers also love it because these are pull ads. So there is something which user wants within the game, and that is where you are placing this ad, and that is why there is a lot more engagement from the users on this ad format. Some of the common myths which are there around rewarded format is rewarded video ads will negatively impact user experience. That's not true. 62% of the gamers regularly choose to engage with rewarded ads, right? So users want these formats of ads, and that is where I said that it is a pull ad. Users want to see it. Another myth: rewarded video ads will ruin in-game or app economy. That's absolutely not true. Users who engage with rewarded ads are 4.5 times more likely to make an in-app purchase because they have sampled that what they are going to buy, right? So it makes the purchase even more effective. Next myth is rewarded video ads only work for gamers. Again, this is also not true. If you have non-gaming apps, also you can place rewarded ads in those apps. If you see the 3 key factors which you need to consider while you are placing rewarded ads is that what is the value of that reward which you are giving? Is your ad discoverable or not? And if it is rewatchable or not, right? So just to cover these points, when you are showing a rewarded ad, Uh, does user understand that what they will get when they will see the ad? So you need to clearly mention that what they will get. It should be valuable enough for user to spend that amount of time or wait to get that value which they are seeking for. Is rewarded ad visible or not? Does a user have to find? Is there a prompt when user wants that want to see that rewarded ad or not? So it is really important that you work on the funnel for this kind of ad. And how sticky is your rewarded experience, right? So if post purchase experience is good, users will come again and would want to watch this ad. So I would encourage you all to use rewarded ad format if you have not if you have not used it. If you are using it, make sure that you are optimizing it based on these three key pillars, which are making sure that it is valuable, discoverable, and rewatchable. I will come on to the concept of mediation now, and we'll talk about a little bit about the Google mediation, Admob mediation offering. So Google's Admob mediation solution is the most effective way to work with multiple ad networks. You can not only maximize your revenue, but also fill rate by choosing the best performing ad formats around the world. So here is an example, right? In the graphs on the slide, you can see uh, uh, three networks. Now, which ad network would you choose? It's hard to pick because their performance is varying. So, ideally, you would want to choose the highest ECPM out of the three networks for every ad impression. So, that is exactly what mediation does. So, how Admob mediation works to help you understand how Admob mediation works. You can see the slide where it is shown, as some of you might be familiar with the live ECPM that Google Demand competes in real time in the mediation chain. Our mediation platform is the only platform where you can get all Google's demand competing in real time. The way this works is Google's advertisers provide a bid for every single ad request, and Google selects the highest winning bid. This bid is then slotted into the mediation waterfall in order of the ECPM value for each network, right? So each of the networks are providing their own ECPMs, and Google Demand is coming in real time, and between the mediation chain, the highest network will win. So I will be covering this very quickly because most of you might be aware of the mediation logic. If you are not aware, please go on the Admob website. I will share some links towards the end of this presentation also, where you can go and learn more about Admob mediation. So why should you choose Admob mediation for your ad inventory? Few key points. Google always bids fairly and in real time on our platform, ensuring that there is a better bid available. We serve that impression. We invested in advanced features like price floors and multi-call to help you maximize your revenue. You will hear more about those in this presentation. Mediation groups allow you to configure mediation across apps and ad unit. So even very complex publishers can manage their monetization with few mediation groups. We also saw publishers spend precious human capital updating mediation chains and thought we could automate this process. That's why we launched network optimization, or we call it ANO, which scrapes ECPMs multiple times a day by country, and we are able to order waterfall based on network's most recent performance. So this is very unique to Admob, and it helps you optimize the revenue from each network. These are some of the results. Thanks to all the investments we have, we are really seeing a change in how publishers like you view our products. We recently conducted tests with publishers like yourselves against other platforms, and in these tests, we outperformed all the other mediation platforms. Admob delivered 37% higher ECPMs and 23% higher revenue and 11% fewer impressions, right? So less blocks for users and more revenue for you is what you can achieve using mediation. The next form of mediation, I will quickly cover the open bidding. Now we are bringing a new concept to make it even better. We are innovating our mediation to be the best yield management platform with open bidding. This will enable all types of demands, all formats, to be able to compete for your inventory in real time with real bid prices. So at the same time, you will get demand from all the other networks in real time. uh, we will do this heavy lifting for you. So you will have fewer SDKs, you will have single reporting, single payment, where you can. So this is actually a next level of mediation group where you are getting real time access to demand, apart from Google also. This is one of the case studies which we did with Ludo King, with game solution. For the Ludo King game, there was tremendous increase in revenue and ARPDAU, which they saw when they switched to open bidding. They saw that they were able to fetch much more ECPM when they were using the live bidding process of open bidding. Another example is also from an Australian-based publisher, which is Halfbrick. Again, they also saw increase in ECPM and overall revenue, which was really beneficial for them. These are some of the resources which I was referring to. There's a dedicated page on Google Admob for gamers, for gaming publishers, which is admob.google.com/home/games. You can see the latest updates and best practices and optimization tips about games here. There's a YouTube channel also on for Admob, which you can see for latest updates and some hands-on implementation guides. You can follow us on social media. Some of the handles are written here. I will just wait for 10 seconds for you to note it down if you want, and then I will move on to acquisition strategy. Okay. Moving on to acquisition strategy, what I am covering here is that you might want to know that if you are acquiring users, or if you are thinking of spending money on inorganic acquisition, what should be your CPI, right? Cost per install, where you should start from in order to do that. We recommend you that you find out first LTV, that what is your lifetime value of your users, and if the lifetime value is higher then the cost per install, you have cracked the success mantra for having a sustainable app campaign, right? So how do you do that? I will just quickly take you through that how it is calculated. So let's look at the formula for calculating the customer LTV. It is a multiplication of ARPDAU and the number of days a user spends on your app. ARPDAU is nothing, is the average revenue which you make from daily active user. It includes both IAP as well as ads revenue. Number of days indicates the total days for which a user is retained to your app. In next two sections, we will cover both enhancement and calculation methods for customer LTV. It is important that you have a higher customer lifetime value so that you can acquire users easily. As you can see from the formula, it depends on having higher ARPDAU and having a customer to spend more days on your game. First one, focusing on export countries would help you achieve higher ARPDAU. Let me go to yeah. Okay. So focusing on export countries. It is encouraged that you make good quality games so that you can have users from across the globe and some of the high CPM markets. The second is ad density. You need to make sure that you are showing the right number of ads to users. You should calculate that how many DAUs you had, or how many sessions you had, or what was the total session time, and then calculate based on the number of impressions you showed, that what is your ad density, and are you optimizing the monetization from your users. Adopting to advanced ad formats like rewarded and interstitial will also help you increase your ARPDAU. Optimizing the mediation platform, as we spoke about, and getting higher IP revenue are the few things which you can use to increase your ARPDAU. How do you increase your user retention? Broadly, higher user engagement with launching new features, personalized content, smooth onboarding, and relevant push notifications. Maintain app vitals for smooth user experience will make sure that your retention is high. We discussed the formula to calculate LTV and the things to keep in mind to boost your LTV. Now let's look at where you can find the variables to calculate LTV. The variables DAUs, ads plus IAP revenue, D1, D2 retention, etc., can be found on Firebase dashboard also. So I will quickly take you through this some of the screenshots where you can find these on Firebase dashboard. It is really simple. If you see once you log into Firebase, you integrate your Firebase with your Admob account, you will be able to see some of these matrices. For example, this is where you will see daily active users. This is where you will see IAP plus Admob revenue, and this is how you can calculate your ARPDAU. Right, to calculate the number of days spent, what you can do is you can go to the retention section. There you will get D0 to D14, D1, D7 retention numbers. Here is a sheet which we developed for you to calculate the average number of days which user is spending. So this is the short link. You can note down this link, which will take you to a spreadsheet where you will have to enter the numbers. You will see some of these numbers in yellow, just yellow filled cells. You need to just update these numbers, which you will find in your app, which you will find in your Firebase interface, and that is how you will get the average number of days spent. This sheet will give you the average number of days which users are spending in your app. So this is a link which you can note it down. This is a short link which will take you to the spreadsheet. I will just wait for 10 seconds more for you to note down this link. Okay. Now that you know your LTV, you know what cost per install you can use to maintain and have a profitable user acquisition campaign, right? So ARPDAU multiplied by number of days will give you customer LTV. You just need to make sure that your customer LTV is more than the cost per acquisition campaign, and then you can scale your business very, very easily. Yeah, that's it from my side. I will see the questions which you have posted. In the meantime, I will pass this on to Sharon, who will take you through how you can launch on Google Play using the Play Consoles tools and help launch your next game successfully. Over to Sharon.
Thank you, Ankit. I'll just need to perfect. Share my screen. That should be showing. Great. Quick check to the other speakers. You can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Sharon Tulsiani, and I'm with the partner developer management team here at Google Play. And I want to pick a theme that I think would make sense both in the conditions and the current situation, but also something that will hold anybody who's working in the game development space in good stead, long term. Things are clearly changing. Things have been changing in India in gaming for a while, and many of you who've been in the industry for a while, especially the last 2 years, has been very interesting. Both in terms of people that we see, the number of people we see playing games, and also in terms of the way game development in India has evolved, and the way we've seen local game developers thrive in the ecosystem. Of course, the last month, understandably, has been difficult for everybody, and we're very happy to see that you've taken out time to attend this seminar and listen to us talk. So I want to make sure that I can tailor my message to out there, and I'm going to try to avoid being very prescriptive. I don't want to tell you specifically do ABC, but I will. I put together a list of learnings from very successful game developers that I work with, both Indian and global, and point out the areas where these mature developers work extremely well, and specifically point out areas where newer or less mature development studios make mistakes, right? Another thing I've tried to pick is areas that were easy to fix. So it's not something that necessarily means that you have to hire a set of resources, but something that anybody who is is a game developer or works in a studio or is publishing a game, anybody can, with enough time and maybe some look. I understand that there's no right way of building a blockbuster game, right? But at the same time, you want to make sure that all the effort you put in is seen and experienced by as many users as possible, right? So how do you get from where you are to where you want to go? While there's no right way of doing things, there is a logical flow. And this logical flow is something that you would actually see in common in many successful gaming companies, right? And one of the primary differentiators that comes across very strongly is that a lot of successful teams have in, put in place a lot of discipline, whether it's at the CEO level, founder level, or at the analytics, team level, whatever it is, uh, to make sure that they have a rigor and focus on data and analytics. Right? So data and analytics in gaming doesn't matter if you're a small studio or you're building something, with millions of dollars. The cornerstone of your decisions, what plans you make, should be always informed by data, and your data is only as good as the uh, setup you use and how you approach the analytics tools you have, right? Um, so let's do something simple. I'm going to deep dive into the tools that are easily available and freely available on Google Play itself, on your Google Play console, right? And what metrics you can use to inform your strategy going forward. So, a quick check. How many of you are familiar with Android Vitals? I'm going to switch to my chat screen to see if anybody has any comments here. All right. Deepak is saying he's familiar. Deepak, I know you're familiar. You work with Blacklight Studios. They're a great, really good, solid team. So you should be familiar, I expect. But for the rest of you, let me just quickly cover what Vitals is and why it's important. Now, everybody who's looked at the console will see Vitals. It's upfront, it's in your face. But because sometimes a feature or data is put right in front, we think it's not as important. But let me say that if you want to go back from this session and get one thing right for Google Play, for your game, it is that to get your Android vitals under control. It is super, super important. Now, these metrics have been sourced from, say, these numbers have been sourced for different 15 to 16 different engineering metrics that we have seen have the most impact on end user experience. So, bad Android vitals essentially is telling you that your game is giving the end users a bad experience. Right? And obviously, a bad experience is a very clear indicator of future performance. Right? So, vitals are a powerful tool to help you understand the performance and the quality of your game once you publish it. Most game developers talk about features, and most of you are busy with the big new feature that you're going to put in the game. You know, often there's a thing that I'm going to fill up my production pipeline with these great features, and once I have this feature, my game will become successful. Right? And that's true in many cases, but at the base of all of this is the ability for the user to first enjoy your game. And that comes down to these 15 engineering metrics, or which is compressed to these four vitals. So, what are these four vitals that have the greatest impact, right? One is the stability metrics. Two are stability metrics, which are your crash rate and your ANR rate, right? The other is the battery metrics. So, excessive wake ups, partial wake locks in the background, all of these things are tracked. And we display all these prominently, so you should be able to see it very easily on your console. And also, a lot of this is compared to what we have as a relative bad behavior threshold. So it's not a random number, it is a well understood, accepted number which is compared across the ecosystem. Right? And so if your title sees a performance issue above the threshold, it'll show up in red and you'll get the warning. Please do take a look at it. Right? So why pay attention to it? Because, and this is one of the things that we talk about, it does enhance your store visibility. Okay, I know a lot of people ask me questions about how do you get more visible. Well, make sure your title has really solid Android vitals, and of course it avoids bad reviews. Now, I want you to remember that because I'm talking about the impact of reviews on the success of your game. It's not just what people think, but it has a very real impact now, and I'll get to that. Another quick check is testing tracks, right? Uh, in general, most people should be familiar that there are at least 5 different tracks. The most relevant in this scenario is your internal testing track, your closed testing track, your open testing track, and production track. If you choose, or if you have a famous IP or a game that people already know about, maybe like a part two, then you can do. Then you should look at a pre-registration track. Now, these things, these 5 tracks are very powerful and impactful when you're launching a game or even updating a game. Uh, they should be part of your core strategy. And I'm not going to talk too much in detail about them. You can find these tools online, and I'll give you a link at the end. But what's really critical to understand is that the production track or launching straight in production may not always be the best solution for you. So please look up how open and closed testing is done because that can save you a lot of pain in the long term. It's about adding maybe 2 weeks worth of delaying your launch or update, but long term, you're going to save your game a lot of rework and pain. Right? Just another general sort of update for people who might might want to look at this is that so at the same time set up your game so that there's an open beta say running in Brazil or there's a closed beta running in the US. And what this allows you to do is collect data and understand how different markets are going to approach your game. And then build for those markets or decide not to depending on what you really want to try. I personally find that a lot of game developers use this approach to understand which features to prioritize and which parts of the game to change or what should the next update be. Right? All right. So you've done all of this. It's time for you to launch or update, whatever. Right? Everything is set up. But as you're about to get into that, you start getting stressed. And I was only think about what you think makes a healthy game release, right? You might realize that your crash tool warns you if you get a spike in installs. That's great, but also you'll see that reflect in the number of crashes that you see after a big spike in installs. Right? Your product team might come back and tell you that your ratings are suddenly dropped. There are a lot of these subtle and significant changes across metrics that impacts your launch. Right? So whether it's new installs, updates, ANRs, ratings, reviews, uninstalls, crashes, all of these things are going to come together to impact the success of your game, right? And if you look at them separately, you might not understand the picture. You might say, okay, my crash rate has gone up by, 40 by 0.5%, 1%, 2%, not a big deal. But if that starts affecting your reviews, you need to be worried. So that's where the Google Play console really has an advantage in that it provides, and it's a great resource for you because it provides all of this in one place. Uh, so please do spend time because otherwise, very often launches don't go well, and we've all experienced this in the gaming industry. So let's talk about launching well, right? A good solid game launch is really does give you momentum and very often can differentiate between a game that is easy to promote or a game that after published can be expensive for you to you have to spend a lot of money on acquisition to get it to a place where it starts attracting users on its own, right? And look, user acquisition is very important, uh, but many good campaigns and even featuring opportunities that Google Play has, they often result in a game that falls short of its potential because the basics are not in place. And so let's talk about some tools that Google Play has available on the console that are fairly easy to use that can help you avoid some of this. Number one is look at the user review section. It's really important to remember why performance is important. Uh, this is something that every developer knows. If I ask you as a developer, I say, hey, what do you think about a crash rate of 5%? You'll intuitively, your first answer is, look, it's a bad idea. But often this gets deprioritized. And We understand that a bad experience as users ourselves turns us off an app. Sometimes you download an app, you're not sure about it, or a game, and if it crashes too many times, that's it, you're done. But this intuition is validated by data. And our Play Store data tells us that, and we did a study actually on reviews, that when leaving one-star reviews, 40% of the time, 40%, the negative performance is the main issue, at least is mentioned as a main issue. Right? So bugs or stability issues. So if you think about it, 40% of your one-star review, which really brings down your review, could be just a performance issue, which with enough engineering effort or with just solving for that problem with time, you could find a solution to. And on the other side of this, when leaving a five-star review, often there is an indication about the design, the usability, and even the speed of say menu changes, things like that. So your ratings, and it's important to understand that user ratings are highly correlated with your main business KPIs, as a game developer that you're concerned with, which is retention, engagement, monetization. Strong correlation between ratings and retention, engagement, and monetization. Right? This data was from a slightly older data set of 2017, 2018, but still holds true as a general behavior indicator. Okay. The pre-launch report. Now, this is a really strong tool. I don't see enough developers using this because it's not applicable for everybody. But if your title qualifies, please use this tool. Basically, it is an automated tool that will test your app or your game and will tell you if there are any issues. Right? So it takes a lot of the effort off you. This is especially important if you're a small team. If you don't have all the resources, say, to hire a large number of testers, or you don't have the connections, or whatever it is, or the community in which a game is new, there's a lot of work that gets done in this automated report. Right? It doesn't work in all game engines, but it will work in certain areas. So one is it does app stability testing. Right? This is important. The other way thing is that it actually gives you a scan of known vulnerabilities or privacy leaks that your title might have. So it's good because in things like, let's say, certain libraries that you're using that are obsolete, right, because you've been building a game of a previous game or whatever it is, you can get a notification for that through this tool. It also sometimes certain structures will capture screenshots and videos. So certain parts, it will give you a general sense visually on what the user experience feels like. Now, this works in certain types of games that are, the menu base is easier to view. But I always say give it a shot. You might find something very useful. And just a note: in 85% of cases, where pre-launch report found a crash, the app was not pushed to production, which means in all those cases, if they had not done a pre-launch report, they would have launched the app or game. Then millions of users would have seen that crash or experienced it. So it's a pretty good benefit. And I hope it gives you security to feel better about your product before you take it out to the market. So yeah, it's really important to discover bad behavior. I'm going to skip through the next part really quickly because I would encourage you to spend some time researching it on either our help section or anywhere else on the web. One of the things that one end, the high end Samsungs, on the other end you have the low end, whether it's a Xiaomi or a Red or something like that, or even other local devices. And what this can often do is that if you release a game, you might see a high crash rate from a certain set of devices. Right? So this will show up in your screen as a vitals problem, or you'll see a lot of crashes, or you'll see some other impact you have. Now, what we allow for in the Play console is for you to restrict your app, your game, to a set of devices, and you can differentiate those devices based on, or you can create a cohort or a catalog devices based on how much what the SoC is, the RAM, the GPU, in the screen size, whatever, even OS version. So you can actually say, you know what, my game is currently not very optimized, and I will maybe over the next 6 months optimize it or 3 months optimize it. So right now, I want my game to only run on high end devices, so that the users don't see crashes all the time, or something like that. It depends, up to you. But this is really useful. So you can say search and say I want to create a set with this manufacturer with at least more than 2 GB RAM, and then make sure that your game is not downloaded by users. That becomes an unsupported device. And those users, you don't want those users giving you bad ratings, right? If that device is not efficient at running your game on your phone. So there are additional extension rules which I would ask you to go and check out, and these would definitely allow for better control and better granularity over who and what devices can download your game. Yeah, why use it? Like I said, avoid enabling, you know, devices that where users would have a bad experience, right? And give yourself time to optimize for more devices long term. And that's really great. If you have a small team, you can't do everything immediately. A tool like that will help you. And lastly, let me cover the big piece. This is the release dashboard. Now, if you have released a game on Google Play, you've used the release dashboard at some point in time or the other. But in my conversations with a lot of advanced or super successful developers versus developers who are still new and still maturing, I find that the use of the release dashboard is a lot more nuanced, it's a lot more complicated, and they spend more time on it. These are for mature developers, whereas uh, less mature developers have not really spent their time going through all the aspects of release dashboard. So I'm going to quickly talk about 3 or 4 different areas that I would like you to go back after the session and just take a look and see if it's giving you any new insights about your releases, whether it's the new launch or whether it's an update. So, why we put this together, by the way, is that end of the day, we want every developer to make every production release successful, right? Now, we've spoken about the testing, we've spoken about the pre-launch report, the other channels, the test tracks, all of that. And now let's talk about what happens after you push build into the production rollout, right? And what all data can you monitor for this without an SDK? You can always get third-party SDKs, which you probably, get as much data as possible. But this is what you can do just out of the box right now. Okay? So a few highlights, which, in my experience, developers spend time on. Right. One is to understand the absolute number of crashes as well as crashes per 1,000 devices of a specific release. So whether you're doing a new launch or an update, it's important to constantly track separately what the impact of that is, both in absolute numbers, right, and both in terms of an overall percentage. And if something looks off to you, you can go and look for that specific crash cluster and see if your latest game build has, made some mistakes and introduced new crashes. You can compare that with whether it's a new set of crashes, whether it's just increasing the old set of crashes, right? And of course, it's not just restricted to crashes. You should also be able to look at your ratings and reviews by build, by your latest version. So if you put out a new rating with either new set of features or new some technical improvements, you should also start to look at, hey, is this increasing or decreasing my 1 or 2 star reviews? Is this increasing my 5 star reviews? And that will allow you to decide if you want to, revert your rollout or push a new update. What's also, and I think very fascinating, is you can see what we call install and uninstall events. These are not necessarily installs, but these are uninstall events or install events that come from um, these new devices in your new update. Whether it's a new device, if it's a new install, or it's an update that is being pushed through, right? So are you basically losing or gaining users because of a new version? And this is all out the box. You don't have to add anything extra into your game. And I think where you want to look at it is basically put of all of these metrics together and see what the cumulative impact of your releases is like, right? And what performance improvements you made through the work and all the developer man hours your team has put. yeah, so next time you roll out a new version, do monitor it with a release dashboard. It's very easy to find. It's just under release management, and you can check it out there. So that's pretty much all I have, and I hope this was important. Again, the reason I picked these is because I think we're seeing a general growth, as you can see, in gaming. We've been seeing it for a while, and we're seeing it stronger right now. Uh, it's important, I believe, that you ensure that your work, all the work that you're putting, gets the most impact and gives the best experience to users, right? Um, and also the fact that your users have a great experience when they explore new genres and try your app or your game. So I want to leave you with this slide. Now, Play Academy is a free resource that we have that any developer can use. Anybody can use. You don't have to be a developer. Anybody can use to learn more. It's a proper course curriculum. It includes things like Android Vitals. It's a little more technical in certain areas. It covers Google Play policy, which I know a lot of people have questions about, and even things around products like Android app bundles. There's a lot of stuff. Do check it out. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a couple of seconds and open up the mic to my other speakers if there's something else that we have to do next. Yeah, so I'm done, Shivani. You can take it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Do you want me to stop presenting now?
Yes, if you can just, and you have got a lot of questions, and our speakers have shared their input for these questions. If you have any question, you have my email ID. It's shivanik@imai.in. You can send any question, and I can take these questions offline and get back to you. Thank you everyone for joining this session. If we will be planning other sessions as well, we will reach out to you. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.